On May 28th, the official White House account posted 4 words on X. They walk among us. With a link. The link went to aliens.gov. Mock declassified headers, glowing green font. For 60 years, the U.S. government has kept a closely guarded secret. Aliens have been walking among us, living in our neighborhoods, interacting with us in our daily lives. And then, an ICE arrest map. A tip line to report your neighbors. A button that reads, Report Suspicious Aliens. And at the bottom, in the same disclosure language they've been using all month, they weren't little green men. They meant immigrants. That is where disclosure went, and we're going to talk about why that was completely predictable, because we predicted it.
Welcome to the Fortean Winds podcast, where we talk about high strangeness and the war for perception. I'm Bones, and with us, as always, is RamX.
Hey, everybody.
Hey, Ram. So tonight we're doing something a little different. We missed a week, and the week gave us more material than any single episode could. So we're bouncing fast at a lot of topics, right? I mean,
yeah.
And the through line tonight is we called a lot of this, not to pat ourselves on the back, but to make the point about the method.
Yeah, the method is the episode. Everything else is receipts.
Right on. So let's get into it. Let's start with disclosure, because something happened this month that closes the loop on a prediction we made 3 episodes ago.
2 things happened in the same week. Pursue, the Pentagon's UAP release program, dropped its second batch of declassified files on May 22nd, 2026. There were 46 videos, and some of what's in there is genuinely worth taking seriously. An orb emitting smaller orbs filmed by a U.S. military infrared platform with Arrow's own documentation attached stating the objects exhibit varying directions of travel. That indicates that these are not balloons. The Apollo 17 VM6 photograph, 3 dots in triangular formation above the lunar surface, which the government has opened an active investigation into, retrieved the original film from 1972 and officially assessed as potentially the result of a physical object in the scene. FBI law enforcement reports of orbs launching other orbs from 2023 with credentialed federal witnesses. Real material, serious material.
Yeah, and then May 28th.
And then May 28th. The White House posts, They Walk Among Us, and links to aliens.gov.
Yay, yippee.
Yeah, an immigration enforcement dashboard. An ICE tip line. Mock declassified headers. They weren't little green men, is the headline, right? The reaction from the UAP community was immediate. It is today. We're doing this on the day after, actually. And it's not printable on a family podcast because the UAP and UFO community feel really hornswoggled here.
Yeah, for sure.
But you only get hornswoggled if you believed it in the first place.
Right. I mean, we said this was coming. Not that specific website, but just the structure.
The structure was
very obvious.
Exactly what we said it was going to be. 3 episodes ago, we said that's the structure. 3 phases. Political signaling. We will reveal everything. Maximum transparency. Then there's speculative escalation. That's exactly what happened. Fox News is talking about 4 different alien species visiting us. The public fills the gap with whatever narrative fits it. And then institutional control comes. The actual material gets filtered, it gets reframed, or it gets redirected. We said disclosure would be managed through those 3 forces. And on May 28th, they used the word alien to mean immigrants. In the same week, they dropped UAP files and called it transparency.
Right.
The cycle didn't just complete. They completed it all and handed us the receipts.
Yeah, it's Groundhog Day. And, we just got to hear the president mispronounce extraterrestrial and then say that it was the number 1 topic, as if we were talking about TV ratings. It was disappointing.
Yeah, it was disappointing and patently false because the UFO community moved on from this in days. Because as interesting as those documents and videos are, they're no different than the ones that were already in the public.
Right.
So they did not move the needle. And like we said, if it's anything short of material evidence, it's not going to. Because this is not even a new Groundhog Day. It's the 1990 cycle. It's the 1960 cycle. The surface narrative evolves. Now it's orbs instead of saucers. But the structure stays intact. The signal is real, just like the signal is real in the Epstein case.
Epstein, because a lot has happened since our last episode on that, and we want to run the scoreboard properly, right?
Yeah. Massie's concession speech and Massie losing is the big one. May 19th, he stood up and said, "Today is the 6-month anniversary of the Epstein Files Transparency Act, which he and Ro Khanna had sponsored. In 6 months, 24 CEOs, an ambassador, a prince, a prime minister, a minister of culture, and he's got 7 months left in Congress and nothing to lose." That's the frame of Massie right now.
Right. So let's run the list.
Prince Andrew, arrested February 18th on suspicion of misconduct in public office. Allegations include sharing confidential documents with Epstein. This is a former member of the British royal family in handcuffs. Well done, England.
Yeah.
Catherine Rumler, Obama's White House counsel, chief legal officer at Goldman Sachs. She appears in the files approximately 10,000 times. She referred to Epstein as Uncle Jeffrey.
Ew.
He gave her a $9,000 purse. She shared non-public White House communications with him, and she resigned. Not a Republican, by the way.
Right.
Larry Summers, former Treasury Secretary, former Harvard president. Files showed him asking Epstein for dating advice about a woman he described as his mentee. He resigned from Harvard, and he resigned from the OpenAI board. This is another guy that was a superstar in the Democratic Party. And it's not one or the other. That's the point. There's a whole lot of bad that we need to clean out up there. Thomas Pritzker, Hyatt Hotels executive chair, continued friendly contact with Epstein after the 2008 plea deal. He resigned. Said he exercised terrible judgment.
Yeah.
Accurate.
Yeah, he did.
Sultan Ahmed bin Sulayem, CEO of Dubai's largest port operator. Epstein referred to him in documents as one of his most trusted friends. He resigned after 10 years. And old Howard Lutnick, now Secretary of Commerce, he claimed 4 months before the files dropped that he'd cut ties with Epstein in 2025. He went out of his way to go on a big New York Post podcast and lie to everyone in the most ridiculous way. I think we've all seen the clip of him saying, and then he said, "I get the right kind of massage." And I said, "Oh, I would never." And then
the acting. He's a pretty good actor.
He's a terrible actor. He's a terrible actor, and the files definitely showed otherwise. And he admitted to visiting the island in 2012, and he is still the Secretary of Commerce.
Yeah, wow. If he could get a promotion, he would.
He would.
And we have the Andrew photos.
Yeah, multiple sets. One shows him on all fours over an unidentified woman lying on the ground at one of Epstein's properties. Another shows him in a white bathrobe, barefoot, at a woman table at Martha's Vineyard, sitting with Epstein and Peter Mandelson. American flag mugs are on the table. Photo is believed to be from about 1999 to 2000, when we're missing all them emails.
Yeah, right.
Touching on everything we've talked about tonight, aren't we?
Oh, yeah, and we called the geography on this, right? Because we said the people were going to fall. They were going to fall. If they were going to fall, they would fall in Europe first.
That's right. Where they have less protection.
Yeah.
Because we discussed the protection mechanism in manufacturing the untouchables. And we said it in that episode before any of this landed. Untouchables aren't protected by secret handshakes. They're protected by incentives. The American institutional incentive to protect these people is stronger than in the UK, stronger than in France, stronger than in Dubai. So the ones who go first are the ones where the protection is thinnest. Andrew, gone. Jack Lang, gone. Peter Mandelson, gone. politically destroyed. In America, Lutnick still is the Secretary of Commerce.
Yeah.
The Clintons testified and said they saw nothing wrong, and that was that. The pattern held exactly as we described it.
Yep. So let's talk about what happened to the man Massie who made this law to get these files into the public.
Yeah, perfect example of what we described in our Manufacturing the Untouchables episode, which is that these people remain untouchable by creating risk for anyone who confronts them. That was our whole premise in that episode. And Thomas Massie lost his Kentucky primary on May 19th, 14 years in Congress. He lost 54 to 45. The race cost $34 million. For a House primary in Kentucky.
For a primary.
The most expensive congressional race in history. Miriam Adelson, Paul Singer, John Paulson, Massie named them all himself. They funded the opposition. It was AIPAC, the Republican Jewish Coalition, Christians United for Israel, and 95% of the money came from outside of Kentucky.
Yeah.
The Defense Secretary of the United States campaigned in person against a sitting congressman. Trump endorsed his opponent.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thesis from Manufacturing the Untouchables, playing out live.
That's exactly what it is. We said the reason untouchables stay untouchable isn't just that they're powerful, it's that confronting them creates existential risk for the person doing the confronting. The risk becomes the deterrent. You don't need to threaten everyone. You need to demonstrate consequences convincingly enough that the next person does the math and decides it's not worth it. $34 million and the defense secretary on the ground in Kentucky. That is a demonstration. That is the apparatus saying, this is what happens when you confront us.
Yeah, we said it before the election. We said if the Epstein accountability push got close enough to people who matter, the response would be disproportionate and visible.
And the disproportionate visible response is the point. It's not supposed to be quiet. A quiet removal doesn't deter anyone. A $34 million removal in the most expensive House primary in American history, that's a message. Anyone else want some?
Yeah.
But here's what I want to add, because the full picture matters. On the same night Massie lost, Chris Rabb won Pennsylvania's 3rd congressional district. He's a Democratic socialist, open AIPAC critic, against 2 AIPAC-backed opponents. Earlier this year, AIPAC's campaign against Tom Malinowski in New Jersey, it backfired, and it accidentally elevated the most vocal Palestine advocate in the race. AIPAC is becoming a toxic brand.
Yeah.
They won Kentucky. They're losing the broader field. Massie is out of Congress in 7 months. The method he used, bipartisan, data first, follow the evidence, that's not gone. That's what we do. And I don't care, Republican, Democrat, like Massie, Kana, good. You're both good. Like, go.
So we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, the wilder stuff, because we cover anomalous phenomenon for a reason, and the anomalies this month go well beyond government file releases. We've got an insider account of how an election may have been manipulated using satellites from someone who was in the room. We've got a MAGA influencer who helped build the machine, explaining from the inside how it was bought and operated, and a few other things that connect back to what we've always argued. This isn't left versus right. It's control versus the population. So stay with us. Welcome back to Fortean Winds. So let's jump into the Ashley St. Clair issue and the PSYOP admission that she made.
Ashley St. Clair. For people who don't know the name, she was a MAGA influencer for about 10 years. And she was deep inside the ecosystem. She helped create what became known as Dark MAGA. She physically handed Musk the black MAGA hat that launched 1,000 merchandise pages. She had Elon Musk's child. She was as inside gets.
Sorry, I'm throwing up in my mouth. It's gross.
I thought you were riffing on the inside gets joke.
Right, no, just disgusted. Just completely. Okay. Yeah.
That's fair. I'm glad it's not a video show, huh?
Yeah, right. But then she started talking, which is interesting.
Yeah, in May 2026, she posted a TikTok video while doing her makeup, it's a choice. It's describing private conversations she had with Musk in October of 2024 and around the time of the election. She says he told her he had 10,000 lasers in space. Starlink, that he described as an anomaly in the Matrix.
Yeah.
Not a piece they'll see on the chessboard, he says. She says he gave her access to real-time vote delta metrics from America PAC that were, in her words, far more sophisticated than she'd seen from conventional campaigns. She says she was offered a significant sum of money to stay quiet, and she refused it.
Well, I mean, good on her. I mean, you got Musk's response on X, his own platform, and of course it was complete silence. So who knows?
Yeah, for a man who responds to everything. He weaponized his platform against critics, far smaller than him. He was punching down, and so all of a sudden he's silence. Silence is a data point here. You weigh it accordingly. He's also in a custody dispute with her over their child. That creates obvious complications in any sort of public response. So how do we read this? Like, she's not a neutral source. She has personal grievances and real legal stakes. We don't treat a single source as proof. What we treat it as the primary account. She's a credentialed insider, that it's consistent with what we had already documented independently. We've been saying for 2 years that what's called MAGA is not an ideological movement in the traditional sense. It's a perception management operation. She was paid, her words, to promote Rick Grinnell for Secretary of State. Benny Johnson, one of the most prominent faces in the ecosystem, is described by her as running coordinated harassment campaigns, abusing staff, operating the whole thing as an outrage monetization machine. The influencer network they purchased is an opinion infrastructure. Like they went after Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson in a coordinated fashion. And you can see the 30 influencers that all use the exact same phrasing when they call Candace Owens a demon.
Right.
That's clearly planned. When the third assassination attempt that we know about happened, and then the same 30 influencers start saying, this should mean that Trump gets his new ballroom.
Oh, right.
That's not an accident. That's a perception management. That is a PSYOP. Like, we covered this. And then, if you don't get offended by it, if we just ignore the politics of it all, like that's a message and a narrative that is being bought and paid for.
Yep. And we said this before she said it. We said it wasn't about left or right solutions. It was always about manufacturing consent and managing the information environment. And that's what they're doing.
Right. And here is someone who was inside it, who was ideologically fully committed, who helped build it, saying the same thing from the inside that we said from the outside. That's corroboration. It's not proof. It's corroboration. And the distinction matters, and we always make it. Like, she's credible, but not because she's perfect. She's credible because she has everything to lose and almost nothing to gain. She's in a custody battle with the richest man on earth. She's being harassed. She was offered money to be quiet and turned it down. You weigh the incentive structure. Her incentive structure points towards truth-telling. That doesn't make it true. It makes it serious.
Right, exactly. And you got to note, too, I think she did mention how she wasn't suicidal. And it's amazing how many people now online find it necessary to make that statement. It's kind of spooky.
It is spooky. And I think we're going to touch on that as we bump into a few more of these threads.
Yeah, so let's run a few more threads fast. Occult history. We're 5 chapters in on the series. Ram, what's the connection to everything we've been talking about tonight?
Yeah, so I did a series of articles on the grimoires and did an AI analysis of that. And that's just part of a much larger body of work that we're drawing from here. So the occult series is my attempt to kind of wrap up both our work at Fortean Winds with the work that we found in the occult and how that affects consciousness and how all of that fits together. And I'm working through it. That's what I said. And the book is part of me working through it. And we'll see. So the occult series was always going to come to this point, though, where we're finding overlaps. We're finding overlaps between people who are serious. It's the same networks, the same pattern of institutional knowledge. It's held by small groups, and it's managed through exclusion. It's weaponized as leverage over the majority.
Right.
And this runs from the medieval church through the Rosicrucians, through the Golden Dawn, through the 20th century intelligence apparatus, like into the current moment. What we're watching with Epstein, with UAP secrecy, with MAGA, the perception operation. These aren't new inventions. They're modern instances of a very old operational template. The occult series is the deep history of the present. Like, that's why we're running it alongside this stuff.
Right, right. So what are we watching going into the midterms in November?
I think we're watching 3 things. We're watching where the AIPAC money moves next.
Oh, yeah.
So they demonstrated their capability in Kentucky, and they're losing ground with Democrats and Republicans. They're going to pick their next target carefully. Whether Ro Khanna builds the bipartisan transparency coalition he's been sketching out since the Massie defeat, we'll see. He's the co-author of the Epstein Files Transparency Act. He read names into the congressional record. He called them the Epstein class. So is John Ossoff and some Marjorie Taylor Greene, some of the others. They're positioning. Watch whether that positioning survives in the next 6 months. You're seeing very few people who are serious attempt to position themselves along with the dying MAGA movement, and we're seeing more and more people coming over to this coalition of the decent, as I'm calling it. Like if you're against the Epstein class, you're on our side. And if you're for them, you're on their side. It's kind of that simple.
Yeah, it's pretty simple. So before we go, we want to say something about the method, because we called a lot of what happened this month. We called it. And we don't want to be arrogant about it, but, we want to be honest about why.
Yeah, there's a lot tonight, and we could have gone into more that we have been able to predict before it happens. And how are we able to do that? Because we're working mostly from, we're always working from open sources, and we're always using critical thinking, and we're always trying to reduce our assumptions. And that's how we end up getting the right answer. We're not also rushing. And that's how we're able to say things before they happen often. And we're honest about what they are. And the true value of having a prediction mechanism like that is that we can test our hypotheses, and we can test them along with you. We can say, look, if this is a real UFO disclosure, the following things will happen. If it works like all of the other ones, it will work like this. And this gives you a template to evaluate what you see.
Right. So, the war for perception only works if you don't know it's a war.
Truth seeker standard. Charles Ford even used it. You collect the data before you need the conclusion. You build the framework before the event. If this, then that. If untouchables are protected by incentives, then confronting them creates targeted risk. And that risk will be demonstrated visibly when someone gets close enough.
Yep.
We said it. Massie got close. $34 million came after him. If disclosure is managed through political signaling, speculative escalation, and institutional control, then the end point of the current cycle isn't a craft on the White House lawn.
Right.
It's a gimmick website that redirects the word alien to mean immigrants. We said it. They built the website. We're not always right. We've been wrong. We hold our conclusions lightly and we update them. But the method, data first, framework before event, if, then, rather, because, that works often enough to justify trusting it over noise. The obstacles look enormous. The managed disclosure, the bought elections, the perception operations, and they're real. They're not illusions in the sense that they don't affect people's lives. They absolutely do. But they're manufactured, and manufactured things can be seen through. You just have to be willing to look at what's actually there instead of what you're being told to see.
Right on. Well said. Hey, so that's 14 Winds. Everyone, thanks for being here. Make sure you visit our website at 14winds.com. Check us out on YouTube. Spread the word if you can. And thanks for listening.
Yeah, thanks for listening, everyone. I know we bounced around a little bit tonight, and hopefully it was a little bit looser. We stayed pretty tight during our missing persons episodes, and I think next time we're going to move on to the DMT alien connection.
Yes.
Assuming nothing insane happens, and I want to get through that.
Right. Sounds good. All right, thanks, Ram.
Thank you. Talk soon.
When the damn data meets the power elite, blackmail networks and the incomplete. Fortean Winds parsing what the mainstream won't see. Government controller, just hot strangers in the VIP. Let's get dark. Fortean Winds blowing through the sun.